Welcome to my channel. For those of you who have not been here before, a big hello and thank you for coming over to find out what this is all about. For those of you who have been here before, thank you very much and welcome back. My channel is Inspiring Life Changes. My name is Colette and the reading that I'm doing today is the second part of the Leo full moon reading. I did the astrology part yesterday and that is online and ready to watch. If you haven't viewed it, the astrology part is already there. I may bring some of the astrology into this reading as well, so if you're interested there will be a link in the description box down below for you to go and check that out for yourselves. It always helps to have a bigger picture of what's going on for you in the astrological world. This reading is related to the Leo full moon, so it's the tarot part of it, because I do, for those of you who don't know, I do both parts at the time of the full moon, both the astrology side and a tarot reading for it. I am late doing this one because I had to do the actual full moon astrology reading yesterday. I would normally do the tarot reading on the day of the full moon or the new moon, because I do them as well, but I had a bit of a family crisis and I had to put it off for the next day, so I am going to be late getting this one out and I do apologize for that, so please bear with me. This reading, as I was saying, is for the full moon that took place on the 16th of February, so that was yesterday in the UK. It may have been the day before in the US and other parts of the world, or it may have been early hours of the morning. I haven't checked that out for yourselves. So I'm going to start the reading with one of the angel script cards, which I've been doing for each of the full moons and new moon readings. And the card that we get today is Hanael, which is very red and very fiery looking and very, very Leo looking, in fact. Very apt for this full moon Leo energy. So let's see what Hanael has to say here. It is all about new energy and a sense of direction. It drives the blood to the heart, which is that Leo energy. Leo is the heart, and renews the cells. Hanael never ceases in its intention to assert life and conquer doubt. Again, more very Leo energy. Raphael does this with a quiet reassurance. Hanael with vigour and tenacity. Hanael fights the war. Raphael heals the wounds. They both seek equilibrium, but approach their task from opposite standpoints. Hanael is the lieutenant of Michael, who commands the activities of the soul in its search for wholeness. Hanael is a spiritual warrior, whose charge is to withstand the enemies of purpose, who batter at the quester's gate. It brings supplies of weapons, and we should not fear to go into battle. With Hanael, we do not create unnecessary conflict. We simply take up arms against chaos and put things in order. It is so very fitting what I'm reading at the moment when I think about what's going on in the world at this time. And I did not pick this card out. It was one that came out on its own. So this archangel tells us that help is available for seekers when they feel overwhelmed by exterior pressures or forces beyond their control. Hanael refuels the soul and the body and drives us forward. Hanael energizes new life in the spring and is friend to gardener and farmer. Hanael's dynamic is as essential to the life process as that of Raphael, and of course Raphael is the Regulus star. If you watch the astrology reading that I did yesterday, I talk about how there was a star right next to the full moon, which was at 27 degrees 59 degrees, and Regulus is about 28 something degrees, 29, almost 29 degrees of Leo. So there was a strong conjunction with the full moon energy and this star called Regulus, who is one of the 4 royal stars and relates to Raphael, the healer that is being spoken about here. So that's very interesting as well, that these 2 energies should come out together. Well, there's a lot of talk about Raphael in this. Yeah, refuels the soul and the body and drives us forward, energizes. Okay. Hanael's dynamic is as essential to the life process as that of Raphael. It creates warmth and vitality and refuses to surrender to darkness. In the winter, the darkness has a task to play. The seeds rest in the quiet spaces of the earth. They need silence and no light. But when the seeds have germinated, they creep up, insistent, towards the sun, and the darkness must surrender its hold in order that growth may continue. Hanael forges ahead relentlessly, slaying that which impedes progress towards the goal. Which is very interesting for everything that is going on at this time on the planet. So I'm just going to put Hanael back up there. He's not going to stay. There we go. And I'm going to start with the first card of the reading, which is the 4 of Swords here. So the 4 of Swords is saying to me at this time that there could be this overall feeling of not knowing what to do, because this is a card of kind of not doing anything. It's kind of sitting back, taking your time, thinking things through. But the energy that I get from this card today is this kind of overall feeling of not knowing what to do, what's next, what's coming next. So it's like a space almost in between the energies of what should we do, what have we done. It's that sense of kind of time out before the next kind of onslaught, if you like, that kind of recouping of energy. But it's crossed by the 8 of Swords, so there's a lot of mental activity at this time, a lot of thinking, a lot of kind of overthinking, because the 8 of Swords, if you see here, it's the same person. This is the same person here who's now trapped within these 8 swords here, and on one side he's got Apollo, which is kind of the authority energy, shall we say, the authority figure, and then on this side he's got what's known as the Furies. So they kind of have the ability to drive somebody mad, but they are just in your head. It's like whatever's in your head, these Furies represent the ongoing kind of craziness or the madness that's very kind of personal to each and every one of us. Our own personal fears, stresses, worries, things that have happened, things that are yet to happen, things we believe might happen. So we're kind of stuck in this. It's interesting how it's gone from the 4 to the 8 as well. Both very kind of structural energies in a way. The 4 being the kind of square, the more challenging energy. In astrology, a square aspect. But his swords, interestingly, make up 8 as well. Is it 8 or is it 6? Trying to count them there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, it is 8. There's 4 swords there, so it is 8. So there's 8 and these 8 swords here as well. But the interesting thing about this card is that he isn't actually trapped. It is only his own thinking and his own belief that he's trapped. He does actually have the ability here to just turn around and walk out of this situation. There are no swords behind him. So it's only his own fear, or the fears that have been put onto him by this kind of authority, the traditional way of thinking about things, or people who have that power over us, that make us believe that this is how we have to behave, that keep us stuck in that place of worry and stress, and create those situations for us as well. Because if we didn't have these kind of conditioning, shall we say, conditioning ideas through this kind of authority, establishment energy, the sun energy, then we'd have a lot more freedom to be who we are and do what we need to do without having to answer to anybody here as well. So that seems to be another message with that card as well. Having to answer to other people's authority, which is something that's coming through very powerfully at this time. If you watch my astrology reading, that is one of the big themes that kind of came through for this reading that I just did. So what we have in our head is more swords, the 9 of swords. So it goes from the 8 of swords. Another thing about this energy here is it creates this energy here because we bring it in, because we don't see any way out. We are trapped. And so because we're trapped in our thoughts, it's kind of getting caught up in that kind of downward spiral of the same negative thinking and not being able to see a way out of it. Like all these swords here are pointed at him, and he's kind of, these furies are kind of really getting at him, like the fear elements really high. And that is very much what is kind of taking place on the planet at this time as well. All this kind of fear, this propaganda that's being put out there about having to have certain medical procedures or else. So there's also that energy there as well, which we've all kind of found ourselves in, caught up in. And it's kind of like we were just kind of unexpectedly, in a way, just kind of doing our own thing. When this just kind of happened, it kind of just was thrown at us. So the 9 of swords, the fear element here, the more we allow this fear to feed us in that negative energy, the more fear we're going to create around us and to live our lives in, and the more power we are going to give away at the same time by doing that as well. And that's why we have the Queen of Pentacles in reverse, because she literally has given away her power and her ability, and she is about looking after yourself. She is the queen of nurturing, taking care of yourself. When she's upright, she's very much about nurturing others as well, sharing, very abundant, nurturing, abundant, giving energy. But when she's in reverse, it's almost like having to kind of hold on to what she has. So this is kind of coming through for me as this time period, because in our head and what we're aware of is that we've all kind of had to kind of withdraw our energies to kind of focus on this, because this came before this card as well. So It's like the fear of scarcity, the fear of not having. It's all those kind of nightmares, and this is what this card here is kind of portraying as well. So there's this kind of closing off, closing down, not wanting to help others or to help others with resources, because she does represent the earth element, the earth energy, which is always abundant, always giving. And we also have the 10 of Wands in reverse here as well. And the 10 of Wands in this card is all about kind of oppression, which is also where we kind of find ourselves at this time as well, being self-oppressed. It's like allowing this fear and this fear to kind of close us down, so we become caught in our own self-oppression here as well. And there's all this creative energy, which is kind of going to waste, because it's not being allowed to be released as it should be in a creative fashion. So it's also could cause a lot of frustration. Sorry about that, that was my cat. There's always one around. Cat. Not supposed to do that. Nib. It's a different cat. So, yeah, this kind of energy that could cause a lot of kind of anger, frustration, fear again, because we can't get to do what we want to do in our lives. It could become very frustrating for us. But we do have the World card here as well. So the World card is implying to me that this is coming to an end, that we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, whereas here we haven't been able to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but now we are kind of seeing things a lot more clearer and becoming a lot more balanced within ourselves, and a lot more like a sense of confidence here as well. There is a closing out of a cycle. There is an ending of a karmic cycle that we have been through and are going through at this time. Of course, there is the bigger Pisces ending, moving into the Aquarian age at this time as well. So there is this very kind of big ending of this cycle here. But of course, when it happens, it's not like we are aware of it. When something finishes in our life, when we move into a new cycle, when something changes and shifts, we don't necessarily see it at first. We're kind of caught off guard perhaps later. It's only later when we look back and we go, oh right, that's when that happened, that's when my life changed, that's when that cycle finished and I moved into this new one. So at this present time we may not be fully aware, although it is in our heads, there we are kind of picking up on something. I feel there is something that is being picked up on here by the collective. Kind of the clouds are beginning to clear, and there is this kind of sense of standing on this pinnacle here, almost like being on top of our world, literally. And each of these tools as well is very important, because this is where the balance comes from, kind of connecting or working with our intellect, our creative drive, our emotions, and bringing it all into the physical realm down here as well. So if any of these get blocked, then there isn't this whole balance. So they all have to work together in order for the whole balance to be able to take place here. And the snake has got his tail in his mouth because it's an eternal circle. It's like saying it's a never-ending situation. that just goes round and round, which is why I mean that, like, you know, as one cycle ends, the other begins, and we're not necessarily aware of it. There's no kind of fanfare, and nobody kind of comes in, rushes in and says, oh, that's the end of that cycle, now you're moving into this one. So the energy moving away from us, we have the Queen of Wands, and the Queen of Wands here is an energy of vision. We also have the Leo lion down here as well, so that's quite interesting. The Leo energy, or the Queen of Wands energy in particular, is very much about, like I was saying, she is a visionary. She visions, she kind of brings things into her realm by imagination, by thinking about them. She creates them inwardly, and then they kind of like come into her life outwardly. So she has kind of mastered, if you like, in some ways, that kind of creative the creative bridge between the two, of the inner and the outer, of how you actually get your life to become how you want it to be. But this is the past, this is what's moving away from us. There is also a sense of courage with this card as well, with all these lions here, a sense of finding that kind of lion-hearted energy to keep things going. She's very protective as well, protective of her own heart. She doesn't give herself away easily, the Queen of Wands. And it's connected here with the Lovers and the Nine of Cups. And this is interesting because we've just been having this Venus retrograde, and there is a lot of this love energy around at this time. Relationship energy in particular has been very strong. Relationships that have been finishing and ending because it's not something that is actually real or resonating anymore with that energy. It's like people have outgrown each other in some ways in a lot of relationships. And Mars and Venus are coming together at this time. They're going to be moving together for the next 7 weeks, almost 2 months, in the sky. So this kind of feels a bit like this Venus retrograde, with this very kind of confident energy here of this Venus, knowing what it is that she wants and how she's going to attract it. And the Lovers card for me always kind of says, it's in reverse here, but it always says to me, the Lovers card, about who we attract in our lives is an actual reflection of our of our inner self. So we allow the person into our lives who we believe that not even believe on some level, but it's like that person is a mirror of ourselves. They are what we think we deserve in many ways. It kind of shows where we are at emotionally in our lives as well. Because in this card there was a choice between these 3 women, and Paris, who was young and naive, kind of chose Aphrodite, and in doing so he set off a 100-year war as well. So that wasn't a good choice, but he chose Aphrodite purely because of his sexual desire and drive and lust. And this queen here has this kind of very strong, passionate energy about her, but I don't feel as though it's so much about putting it into the sexual energy as more of kind of a confidence. It's like we are growing up, we are learning more about ourselves, our self-worth, who we are, what we deserve, not going for second best anymore, not putting up with people that we otherwise would have put up with before in relationships. that we would have just said, oh, okay, this feels okay, kind of thing. I'll have a relationship with this person because X, Y, and Z. It feels now as though there's a much more kind of determined energy. Because with the Nine of Cups here as well, the Nine of Cups is basically saying that this is about bringing in that person that we have the most deepest connections with. This is like soulmate energy. This is like meeting the person that you are resonating with on a maturer level, because you've changed and they've changed. It can be past life experiences as well here that are coming back around, but is energy of recognizing ourselves within somebody else and knowing our worth is how this is coming through. Knowing our worth now, knowing what we can have, what we don't want, what we don't have to put up with when it comes to relationships, that resonating energy. And underneath it we have the Death card here. Underneath being the kind of subconscious area, what we're not so aware of, the root cause of the situation, if you like. And the Death card here is talking about transformation. It's talking about the major, huge kind of upheavals that we're all going through at this time, the world's going through at this time, but also about the amount of Pluto energy, for want of a better expression at the moment. The Pluto energy is really powerful at this time. Really powerful, and it has been for quite some time, and it's getting more and more so as it gets to the end of Capricorn, although it is going to go retrograde again in April, so it's not leaving Capricorn until until 2023, but it is that very transformational, metamorphic energy of death. And death, or Pluto energy, I now kind of see it as the great recycler of souls. It's like it recycles souls. It's like people are always dying and people are always being born. It's this constant kind of like cycle of birth and death. And even when we're alive, we go through lots of mini deaths, but we tend to kind of not acknowledge it. It's something that we don't really, particularly in the West, we don't really acknowledge or pay homage to or kind of recognize. The value of when something kind of dies, in the sense of kind of making way for the new is what I'm being told. Making way for the new. It's like when something dies in our life, in the sense of ourself, in who we were as we grow and we mature. So we go from being a child, from like a baby, to a toddler, and then we go to school, so we kind of lose that kind of freedom that we had when we were younger as well. That's like a mini death. And then, you know, going from being a single person to getting married, that's another kind of mini death. And also having a baby, as amazing and celebratory as that is, there is also this part of ourselves which has died, because now we are no longer single. We now have another human being to take care of. So there is that kind of like recognition needed, I feel. And just this general kind of, yeah, recognition of death that is happening all the time around us. It is a constant cycle. And that's why you see these little people down here, these human beings, kind of offering up this flower, because it's kind of recognizing how powerful this energy is. But there is also, yeah, they've all got kind of something, they're all offering something. I think one of them's offering gold, the other one's offering a crown here, because they all recognize the enormity, I suppose. But it isn't a finality either, which is something that's very interesting as well, because in the Western society especially, we've been kind of brought up to fear death as well, which I think is another thing that we all have to kind of face. We're all going to need to face this, because there's going to be a lot of it coming up over these next few years, more than there has been for a long time, I would say. It is like being at war, and there is always going to be those that leave the planet. So that's something that I think that we need to all recognize and come to terms with our own as well. And the fact that things are changing, transforming. There is this huge transformative energy that is taking place at the time on this planet. I mean, Pluto in the US natal chart is just about to return to the same position it was at the time of 1776, when the American Declaration was signed. So again, huge transformational shifts in the energy for the US as well, which is going to affect all of us on some level. And we already have been affected by it, because for the last 2 years we've had to kind of go through this situation that has brought on a lot more awareness, I would say, of death. And I am just going to say as well that there is a cult out there that do strongly believe in the death cult. They are very much fixated on this energy. And they do want to see mass wipeout of the population. And that is something that we are going to have to bring, I feel, more into from the subconscious, because this is what people are not so aware of in this placement, in the reading. This is an energy of what we're not so, like what's hidden, what we don't see, the root cause. And in the future we have the Page of Wands here, so more fire energy, more creative driven energy, but it is in reverse again. So the Page of Wands, young energy, is an energy that wants to explore, it wants to discover. With this particular card in this deck, it's actually trying to leave a situation and move into another. So it's coming out of a dangerous situation and leaping forward into the new, into the unknown. And kind of, he's got his torch here, this light to guide him, to light his way, to kind of get him through the darkness. But it is in reverse. So there is this point of kind of feeling that it's like how it feels is almost like leaving that situation, that danger situation, But it's almost like, are we leaping out of the frying pan and into the fire is kind of what's coming through here. Because there is, when it's a page, there can also be a lot of kind of trust as well. Because it's innocent. There's innocence here. There's a trust. There's a naivety because it hasn't matured. It's not a mature energy. So there's a naivety here of trusting what we're told, what we believe to be true. And so it does feel as though we're kind of leaping from one situation. If it was upright, I would say that we're kind of leaping out of the danger and away from the danger. But it kind of feels as though we're not really leaping that far from the danger when it's in reverse here. Almost like having leapt and then kind of got stuck or frozen in that leaping space. So there's like something has kind of, yeah, frozen is how it's coming through. Sorry if you can hear my cat meowing. She wants to go out and I'm not going to let her out. So we have the Seven of Wands here. Sorry, not the Seven of Wands, the Seven of Swords here in our environment at this time with the Page of Pentacles. So this is another young, naive, innocent energy. But with the Seven of Swords in reverse, this is an energy of, it can be an energy of deceit, it can be an energy of, it's coming through as an energy of not having all the information. Like there's a protection here as well. If you see, he's got these kind of, this shadow here with these swords, because he's carrying these swords here. And he's actually going into the castle to do something that he will regret doing later. So he's behaving in this kind of sneaky, underhand kind of fashion. And these swords at the moment, really, I just always, every time I see them now, I'm just getting that image of that kind of jabbing thing that everybody's having to be a part of, or is being pressurized and bullied by all of the fear element of things, because we've got the 7, we've got the 8, and we've got the 9 here as well. So there's a kind of follow-on energy that is happening. So the Seven of Swords to me here, the darkness, the shadow side of it all, the kind of like things being done in secrecy behind the closed doors, things that we're not aware of, the things that aren't going to be in our favor. So there's a lot of secrecy is what's coming through with this card for me at this time. Things, like I say, things that aren't being brought into the light. Shady, shadowy. And I would liken it to kind of the Black Moon Lilith energy in a way. And Black Moon Lilith is square Neptune at this time as well. And Neptune can be very deceptive energy as well. Things that happen behind the veil that we don't see. Secrets that are kept. But it has the Page of Pentacles here as well. Which is interesting because they're very, very, very different energies. And I'm seeing this Page of Pentacles energy here as somebody, or an innocent, trusting kind of energy. Trusting in the future, trusting in the... Because this here is all about kind of taking this pentacle that he's holding in his hand and planting the seeds for the future. And it's very green, it's very lush, it's very much, he is in the green, and the green is very much to do with the heart energy, also very nature orientated energy as well. Whereas this feels much more kind of, it's suppose, like, how can I put it? It feels more like that kind of AI energy, that kind of wording do I want to use here? Like synthetic, unnatural. Whereas this is much more about the natural world and growing things in the natural world. Being a part of the natural world, connecting with nature, planting the seed for the new. So let's see what we have in our energy of like the collective itself, because this is all about how other people see us. And here we have the 5 of Pentacles, which is all about loss, moving away from something that is precious and dear to us. Here we see this character leaving the home, leaving his home because he has to. He has done something that he shouldn't have done as well. So, and he's leaving during the night. Again, it's kind of that nighttime energy, secretive, but it isn't in reverse. But it has the Knight of Wands with it here. So there is this kind of maturing energy here with this kind of creative push towards something as well. Creative push towards perhaps freedom here, because this Knight is coming through for me with a large sense of kind of courage and drive and real optimism and kind of facing his fears, facing his challenges, standing up for himself. We've got this kind of chimera creature down the bottom as well, if you can see there, that he's slain. And again, that's a kind of unnatural, it goes against nature, shall we say. So there's a lot of going against nature and how things should be that are taking place at this time in the world. And I do kind of talk about that in my astrology reading as well, for anybody who's interested in finding out how and why I think that that's happening at this time, connected with the planets. So it feels like this is kind of like the collective kind of coming together, like leaving home, leaving what's dear to us, going out into the world to kind of make a difference, make a change, but it's kind of being done well, not underhand, but kind of undercover. There's an undercover energy about this card here. Often the 5 of Pentacles can talk about loss, losing something that we're particularly fond of or connected to, or feeling left out in the cold. And it's kind of coming through for me with this, I suppose, this trucker's energy in many ways, and what's happening around the world. It's kind of like this is the courageous side, the side of kind of all standing up together, finding our courage and doing something about it, driving forward, pushing things forward. Again, quite fiery, passionate Leo energy, Mars energy, Sagittarius energy, pushing beyond those boundaries to get the result that we want, rather than the result that we've had so far, which is this kind of sense of loss and wandering, kind of empty and soulless and kind of like with no purpose kind of thing. It's like all of a sudden we have this kind of purpose. And And in our hopes and fears, we have the Page of Swords. Page of Swords, again, more young, innocent, naive energy, but the Page of Swords is all about questions. It's all about kind of like, because it's air energy, it wants to know, it's inquisitive, it wants answers, and it's not going to put up with just because. It's an energy of pushing the buttons. I always see the Page of Swords as the button pushing energy, which can bring trouble, because the person that you're pushing the buttons against can then kind of turn around and blow up in your face, which is basically what is happening at this time, because they don't have any answers or any solutions. But there's an impish energy about the Page of Swords as well. If you see the way that his hair kind of goes back, there's this kind of impishness, this kind of like mischievous energy. It's not a harmful energy, it's not a hurtful energy on purpose. It doesn't set out to hurt on purpose, it just wants answers. But sometimes that's not always appropriate, or it can upset other people who don't want to give those answers. And we have the Six of Cups here in reverse, and the Six of Cups is about nostalgia. It's about the past. If you see here, she's looking into this cup with this kind of sense of, with all these 5 cups down here, these are each symbolic of situations that have happened in the past. But the 6th cup represents the future. So the 6th cup is like, well, in many ways it's the final cup here that she's kind of reflecting on. So she's reflected on all of these, and now she's reflecting on this 6th cup that she has here. And by the time she gets round to this 6th cup of doing all this reflection, she's kind of reached the point of like, she can't change what has happened in the past, but she does have the ability to change what's coming in the future. Only because it's in reverse, there is this kind of like, this kind of sense of, do I really have that ability? Do I really have the capability to do that? And it also has come out with this star energy here as well. And so the star here is in reverse. At the very bottom of this card here we have, or at the very bottom of the Pandora's box, should I say, because that's what this star card represents. It represents Pandora's box, which she has opened, and she's let all of the suffering out into the world. So it kind of represents what we have to go through, what we have been through, all the crap that just keeps coming at us constantly, every day, one thing after another, kind of never ending situations. But at the bottom of the box is this beautiful star of hope that was buried underneath all of this. And it's kind of saying, you know, don't give up. Don't give up. Remain optimistic. And you can see it here as well, reflected in the water down there as well. So it's like, even though it's in reverse, it is still there. The star is still there. So it's kind of saying, you know, keep hold of that star. Keep that star alight in your heart, in your mind. Hold on to hope. Don't give up on it. Don't give up on yourselves, on ourselves, really, is what it's saying. Because things are shifting, things are changing, and we have as the outcome here the Ace of Wands, which is a really good card to finish on here, because it's all about that new energy coming in, that new fiery, passionate, driving. You see here he's got the world, he's holding the world in his hand, and he literally, because this is Zeus, and he also has the golden fleece here as well, which is the golden fleece that we see here, because it was Zeus who actually created the golden fleece. in order for his son here to escape. But the golden fleece kind of represents the prize, the ultimate kind of prize in many ways. And the fire is that creative spirit, it is that drive, it is that passionate moving towards something else. You see here there's all this kind of volcanic looking energy in the background there as well. So it is about taking that passion, that creativity and that drive and putting it into something, channeling it into something, because if the Ace of Fire, Ace of Wands doesn't get channeled, then it will either kind of like erupt like a volcano, or it will kind of just dwindle out and disappear into nothing. So there's these kind of two possibilities here, I feel, with this Ace of Wands. So that it needs to be kind of creatively channeled. So let's see what the confirmation cards are going to say here. It does take me quite a while to get through the cards. I do like to explain their meanings as much as possible. Trying to get people to understand what the cards are saying at this time. There are certain words that I don't want to say, trigger things on my channel. So I have to kind of find other ways around it as well. So we have the Four of Swords and the Eight of Swords at the very centre of this reading. And we have it, the Page of Pentacles again, so that's twice here with the Page of Pentacles. This page in this particular deck is a lot more flamboyant, to say the least. But he too has this pentacle that he's holding in his hand, so he too is kind of looking to the future and wondering what it is that he can do with it. Again, the green does represent this kind of the heart energy, the nature connection with it all as well. So so it's kind of going from this very mental realm, shall we say, this mental realm, which if you look at it is very kind of barren, it's very cold, it's very kind of lacking in anything resourceful, just a lot of stress and kind of mental anguish. And then we have this over the top, so there's this kind of like real strong kind of dichotomy between the two of them, like this greenness, this kind of nature, lushness, all the colours. But again, the Page of Pentacles is about planning for the future, planning ahead. And for me, it's kind of saying don't give up here. Pages, again, that young energy, that naive, innocent. And we are kind of at that place again of kind of like starting out, starting anew, starting afresh. With this kind of innocent understanding, shall we say, or naive, not really knowing
not really knowing what's going to come if we plant this pentacle, if we plant this seed, what's going to grow from it, how will it be taken care of, can we nurture it, can we bring it to fruition, to ripeness, to maturity. This could also be to do with children energy as well at this time. Protection of the children could also be as it could be here as well. But all of the pages could talk about the child energy. So let's see what's in our head here with the world. Oh, sorry, this Nine of Swords, Queen of Pentacles, Ten of Wands, and the world. We have the Hierophant. Hierophant upright. The Hierophant can be about trust, faith, belief, trust that things are changing, that there is this ending of this cycle, that something is bigger than us as well is what's coming through here, because the Hierophant was the original kind of connection with God, the universe, however you want to see it. He would have been the shaman, the mystic, but the Hierophant is more to do with, on some level, kind of traditional religion, traditional ideas and commitments to things as well. Originally he would have been like the bridge between the physical realm and the unknown realm. So he would be the person that you would turn to for answers. So it's kind of saying to me that there is this stronger faith in ourselves, it feels like, as well. Faith in the bigger picture. Lots of people see the Hierophant as the Taurus card. I personally don't see it as a Taurus card. I see it as the Sagittarius card. I see the Hierophant, which, like, Sagittarius is very much about faith and religion, philosophy, tradition, in some levels. So I see it much more as a Sagittarius card, and that kind of Jupiter energy of pushing beyond the boundaries in order to find the answers. It is very traditional energy. Because this is, yeah, it's very traditional. It is very much about what is written, the written word in many ways as well. What is written down, what is faith. Why do we have faith? Who do we put our faith and our trust in? On a bigger scale, on a larger scale. And over the top of this energy here, the Lovers, the Nine of Cups and the Queen of Wands, we have the Five of Swords, which is a very competitive energy, very fiery energy. If you see here, he's got this kind of, pardon me, sorry about that, he's got this where it's like he's got all these swords, he's gathered up all these swords and these people in the background. There's a battle, obviously, by the looks of things. You can see the battle raging in the background, and he's holding on to all these swords, kind of like he's prize, his competition, he's like, you know, go to any lengths is kind of what's coming through here. Go to any lengths to achieve what he wants, the Five of Swords. It doesn't matter who gets hurt in the process, as long as this energy gets what it wants. And it's kind of over the top of all this here, which kind of feels a bit like an old kind of style of relationship in a way. Argumentative, conflicting, difficult battlegrounds of relationships is what's coming through for me here. Just kind of relationships that have been like battlegrounds in many ways. The traditional idea, because this can also be to do with marriage as well. So the traditional idea of like having to behave a certain way. I just keep getting tradition, the idea of tradition. And that you can't, it's like you can't live by a book. You can't kind of live by, like, we all write our own book. And all the books are different. It's kind of what's coming through there. Each and every story. And it's changing. It's all changing because the cycle in itself is changing. So the stories or the traditions or the beliefs around things are coming to a close here as well. There is this ending of this cycle, which is going to bring these kind of traditions to a head. So, the Death card. But that, again, the Five of Swords is the past energy. It's what's moving away. It's what we're leaving behind. And moving into this new dimension. We have the Emperor and we have the King of Pentacles. And they are both upright with the Death card here. And the Emperor is very, again, that kind of patriarchal, masculine. Very masculine, very patriarchal kind of energy. If you think of the Emperor, he's very much the kind of empire builder. He is the establishment. He is the governments. He is the again, the traditional, very set kind of energy, set in its ways kind of energy. And the Death card here is kind of transforming. It's all coming to a close. And with the King of Pentacles here as well, it's kind of, you know, empires are built on men with power and money and success and gold. And yeah, it's like that's what buys power. But you cannot buy You cannot escape death is kind of what's coming through here. It doesn't matter if you're an emperor or a king or whatever. It's like, you know, you're not going to be able to escape this. It's kind of what's coming through. Yeah, it's like it's all transformed. It's all of this kind of traditional empire, kings, monarchies, establishment, all of that energy is being brought to this place of change and massive transformation. And the Page of Wands in the future energy. Page of Wands, future energy. Kind of taking that leap and being stuck, kind of trying to get out of the danger zone and being like just in that process. Just kind of taking that leap no further. We have the Strength card, which is really nice because that's kind of saying that we do have the strength to go forward with this. We do have the strength. We need to find it within us, but it is there. Again, very Leo energy. This is very Leo energy in many ways as well, the Emperor. But this talks about courage. It talks about finding that lion within us all. But also the balance, again, the balance of the masculine and the feminine here. The recognition of the feminine as well, I feel is very important because it hasn't really come out much at all in this reading. But the masculine and the feminine here in the one body talks about, you know, that recognition that we are both masculine and feminine within ourselves. We don't need to create it in any other way because it's already there. We just need to recognize that we are both energies and that we have lived many lifetimes with all these cycles as either and both, you know, many times over, many times over. So this is also about balancing that understanding of the masculine and the feminine energy and bringing it into that place of balance, knowing when's the right time to roar, but also allowing ourselves to be kind of tamed by the more gentle approach to things as well. That it's not always, like we don't always have to attack and be savage in order to achieve what we want to achieve. There is like a maturity and a mastery in this card as well, kind of taming the beast within. But in doing so, it actually becomes more powerful. It actually has more strength that way than less strength. So it is mastery over our kind of animalistic, bestial side of our nature is another aspect to this card. But it does talk to me about having that strength and courage and fortitude to keep going, to keep getting out of that kind of danger zone, knowing that we're in a danger zone and moving away from it. Which I kind of feel we're on that kind of verge at this time. We're kind of beginning to realise how kind of dangerous it all is around us at this time. almost like how much this kind of cage, if you like, or this kind of trapped energy, this feeling of being trapped, imprisoned, is kind of building up around us, because that is our blocking energy. That is what we need. This is our challenging energy at this time, is to break free. Break free, break out of, realize that we can just walk away from the fear element of it all, which is why the Four of Swords is there as well, to say, you know, it's time to take that kind of, I'm not taking all of them, thank you very much. Ugh. Come back here. I'll just have a look at the ones quickly. We had the Ace of Wands come out upright, and the Three of Cups come out upright. Oh, and the Temperance. I'm not looking at all of them. I'm not doing it. I can go back in the pack and I'll have another look. So, yeah, the Four of Swords is that energy of taking that backward step to give ourselves some space to think things through, to not rush into anything, to become aware is what I'm being told. Become aware of what is going on around us, what's happening in our environment at this time. And to get in touch with our heart and nature and nurture, and to grow, not our own growth, to grow things as well. Like growth for ourselves, but also actually grow, plant those seeds, go back to gardens, things like that. So over the top of the Seven of Swords and the Page of Pentacles, we get the Fool in reverse, and we get the King of Wands. More fire energy, more Leo energy, more creative, driving, passionate, pushing forward energy, dynamic, action oriented. Seven of Swords and the Fool together, both in reverse here. The Fool is about taking a leap of faith, but again, when it's in reverse, it feels as though we don't trust the situation enough in order to be able to take that leap of faith anymore. The Fool, it does kind of talk about, you know, that new beginning, because he is at the very start of the journey, and we have the World card here, so he is at the very beginning of the journey. It is the Fool who experiences all of these kind of major arcana card situations, if you like, and as he goes through them, he kind of grows from the Fool through each experience. So it's kind of saying to me that there's something here about maybe not learning, not growing, not learning, not experiencing. Because this Seven of Swords energy is about, or it feels like it's about, that kind of sense of things going on behind closed doors, things that are happening in the dark, the shady, seedier side of life that isn't exposed to the light. And the Fool can also just talk about being foolish or feeling foolish. Feeling like being the fool. Like we've been made fools of. Particularly when it's in reverse. And the Page of Pentacles with the King of Wands over the top here. The Page to the King of Wands is quite a leap. But it is it's a progressive leap, it's a very productive leap, it's a kind of leap of growth in many ways. Of getting in tune with that creative, fiery, passionate, driving side of ourselves. Whereas the Page of Pentacles is more hesitant, more kind of, because he's innocent, naive, more hesitant about life and what he should and can do. The King is all about I can do. Totally 100% about I can do. He knows what he can do. He knows he's got all this potential, all this possibility kind of lying out in front of him. I think we have the Queen. We do have the Queen of Wands here as well. So there's a lot of this Leo energy, as I was saying earlier. Around at this time, it is a really big full moon that we've just had with Leo, with a grand fixed cross as well in all the fixed signs. Leo, Aquarius, Taurus and Scorpio energy. But this King doesn't hesitate. This King just does. He doesn't wait. He doesn't think about things. He doesn't... It's like something's always possible for this King. So over the top of this Five of Pentacles and the Knight of Wands, we have the High Priestess. I was wondering if she was going to appear, show herself. The High Priestess is an energy of trusting in our own wisdom, our own knowing. This is the very kind of opposite of this energy in many ways. Although it's the masculine and the feminine, again the masculine is much more kind of, I wouldn't say just rigid, but is more, what's the word I'm looking for? More kind of, no, don't really want to say practical either. There's a kind of phrase, and I can't think what it is at this time. The masculine is more structured. That's the word I'm looking for. It's a more structured energy, so it looks for structured ways of doing things, whereas the feminine energy is much more flowing. So it's much more open to a different way of approaching things and seeing things and understanding things. And so the High Priestess talks about that subconscious realm of the unknown, of the trusting in ourselves. It is the moon energy, it is the Neptunian energy. It talks of things that have yet to be revealed, things that have yet to be seen, yet to be understood. And it's over the top of this Five of Pentacles, Knight of Wands energy. Which is interesting because this is all very kind of masculine energy here as well, with this Knight of Wands, with this kind of courage, even though, I mean, it can be feminine energy as well, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's just masculine energy only, but it's coming through as this kind of more masculine, driving, passionate, active, dynamic energy, which is what the masculine energy is, whereas again the feminine energy is much more passive and fluid and open. So there's kind of, it feels like, because this is all about our courage and finding our courage and pushing through. And this is kind of saying to me that there's still things yet to be seen, understood and revealed in this situation. And to trust ourselves, trust our gut feeling, trust our inner knowing, trust the bigger picture, trust the divine in all of this. Even though it may feel as though we're out in the cold, or it may feel as though we're kind of at a loss, it's saying that there is a much bigger understanding here, or there is still things to be revealed that haven't been revealed yet, things that are still kind of being kept like here in the dark, like we're being kept in the dark. There's a lot that we're being kept in the dark about, is kind of how that's coming through. And that is again actually something that I wrote in my, and talk about in my astrology video that I put out yesterday. So if you haven't watched it, and if you are interested in the astrology, go and check that one out. It's just been put up, so it'll be the first video that you see on my channel. And if you do watch it, thumbs it up for me, because that really does help to kind of let YouTube know that people are taking notice of my videos and that they are interested in what I have to say and the messages that I'm putting out there. So that really helps me as well. And if you want to leave me a comment on that video, that would be great. If you want to leave me a comment on this video, that would be great as well. So our hopes and our fears with the Page of Swords. Interesting, we have the Six of Swords in reverse. So there's a part of us that's kind of fearful of moving away, I feel, from what we know, because we've also got the Six of Cups here, the nostalgic card, looking back at the past being more attractive in some ways, appealing, what we know, what we're used to. And with the Six of Swords there's a sense of kind of staying stuck in that same place, even though, and I think that the Page of Swords here is the energy that's going to kind of push things forward, because this is that inquisitive, inquiring, kind of questioning, what's this, what's that, what's going on, why this. It's like looking at things on a deeper level, which is also this energy here as well. Going deeper into something, not just taking things on the surface, not being satisfied with just what's on the surface. And so this Six of Swords energy, usually it would be seen as a card, if it's upright, of kind of moving out of a difficult situation, turbulent waters. It can be an emotional situation, a dangerous situation. Into a more kind of serener, calmer, healing situation as well. Leaving the past behind, but because it's in reverse, it's again, it's that energy of kind of like, similar to this, of kind of, and the Fool energy as well in many ways, that kind of like wanting to take that leap, or beginning to take that leap and then kind of stopping. Very similar energy, kind of getting to a certain point and then stopping. which could also be why we've got this Four of Swords here as well, this reflective energy. Because we're having to kind of take a deeper look at something, or kind of rethink through something. We do actually have Mercury coming out of his shadow period by the end of the month, is it? Around about the same time possibly as Venus, maybe just a little bit before Venus does. I can't quite remember. But Mercury in its shadow period is still kind of going over old ground, looking back over where we've been. And Swords is about communication as well. The mind, what we hear, what we say, what other people's thoughts are, or their beliefs in things, what they say to us, what we read, what we see, media, all that kind of thing. How it affects us. So the Ace of Wands is the last card here. Okay. And we have the Three of Pentacles and the Two of Cups, which is interesting because we're coming out of this Venus retrograde with Mars and Venus together. There is this sense of kind of soulmates coming together, like the person that you're meant to be with, the person that you resonate with on that real resonating vibrational level coming together. Whereas this kind of feels like a bit more like, if I can't have what I want, I'm just not going to have anything at all. Like if I can't have the correct, if I can't have my hopes and my dreams and my wishes, then I'm just going to sit this out. There's also an element of that there as well, because of all of this kind of like battling and argumentative energy. And so for a lot of people, it's been a time in the past where they've kind of walked away from and done a lot of kind of like being on their own, which is something that this queen actually did as well. Persephone, I think she is it Persephone? Maybe not, can't think what her name is. But she, her husband went away and left her, and it was rumoured that he died. And when he was away from her, she got a lot of suitors. A lot of people wanted to marry her. Of course, she was very rich, but she was, she used to make excuses that she was creating his shroud or something, I believe, like something for him for his death. And every night she would unpick it and start it again, in order to kind of keep that going. So she was very loyal, and there is also something about that with this queen as well. She is a very loyal energy. Once she gives her heart away, she doesn't find it easy to take it back, or she doesn't kind of easily stray. So there could also be that sense of not wanting to be with somebody if it doesn't feel right, if it's not a heartfelt situation. And I do feel as though there has been a lot of kind of breakups and kind of that relationship battlefield over the last few years. But here we have the Ace of Wands, so that new energy, that new fiery, passionate, driving, dynamic kind of energy. Can be very sexual, very passionate, very Leo again, fire driven, Aries, Sagittarius type of energy, which the Leo moon will have been trining anything fiery at this time, particularly in the last degrees of the fire signs. So the fire energy has kind of been activated at this time. And this reading is for the next 2 weeks. It's not just for the full moon energy and then it's done. It's like the full moon goes on until the new moon in 2 weeks' time. So we have the Three of Pentacles here in reverse. So there's this feeling of not particularly wanting to... It feels like not going back. Not putting the fire and the passion, because here, if you look here, he's kind of creating these pentacles, but he's doing it with the fire there. He's like a blacksmith in a way. I suppose kind of a goldsmith, blacksmith working with fire. And so it feels as though there's this element of not wanting to go backwards to work on something that's already been done previously here. But there is this kind of two of cups energy of this meeting of minds and hearts and bringing together people who are meant to be together. And that doesn't necessarily have to be in a intimate relationship. That can also be people who resonate together for a purpose, like they're coming together for a purpose, and you understand each other on a deeper level, you see each other on a deeper level, you know each other on a deeper level. But there is also going to be a lot of couples, a lot of relationships that are going to be coming together during this period of Mars and Venus traveling together for the next 2 weeks, like I said, until the 2nd of March, when Venus will come out of her shadow. So there's still that kind of shadow period of Venus going through that as well. But more and more people are going to meet that person that they resonate with and have this deep heart, soul, mind, body connection with. And it just so happens that I still have my love cards here that I used yesterday in my reading, and I thought, well, seeing as it's still very kind of Venusian energy at this time that we're dealing with, Venus and Mars, and the fact that the North Node is in Taurus, and Taurus is ruled by Venus, and 2022 or 2000, the year 2022 is a Venus year because it is the number 6. So it resonates to the Venus frequency and vibration. I'm going to pull a Lover's card from the deck here and see what it wants to tell us for this Leo full moon. Like I said before, these cards are not easy to shuffle. Healing. Imagine yourself and your beloved surrounded by light. Feel your relationship being healed this very moment. So there could be some that are going to come back together. Of course, Pluto is playing a part in this as well, because Venus and Mars are just about to conjunct with Pluto, and they're not alone when they do. They are going to be in conjunction with a asteroid called Vesta, who I recently did. If you look on my channel, there is a very short reading that I did for the Hestia. It's called Hestia, and it was meant to be at the end of another reading that I did, and I forgot to put it to do the card, or I forgot to read from the book. So I just did the reading as a separate reading, but that basically is the same energy. It is Vesta. Vesta is the eternal fire. Again, very Leo energy, but it's where we get the Vestal Virgins from as well. So the so Venus, Mars, Vesta, and the Moon are all going to be together when they conjunct Pluto. I think they're all going to be at 24 degrees and Pluto, or maybe 26, can't quite remember again. But they will conjunct Pluto at 27. I think it's 24 degrees because I think there's about 3 degrees separating them from Pluto at that time. But if you're interested, again, go and check out my astrology reading. And there we go, healing. I don't know if that comes out back to front in the actual video. So it's a very beautiful card to finish on, because we are getting, although I was going to pull one more card from the deck of Inner Visions, which I might just do quickly to see what we have. But that is a beautiful card to finish on for this upcoming connection. This can't think of the word again. The word has escaped me when there's more than 2-3 planets in the same sign. Yeah. What's it called? No, it's gone. It's gone. So let's see, do we have one of these cards? Oh, I knew it was going to be that card. I knew it was going to be that card when I shuffled these cards earlier, and I also got a picture of this card in my head earlier as well. I just knew it was going to be that card. Okay, so let's see. It's the flaming something. Is it the flaming crutch or something like that? It's a very sexually orientated energy. Very fire, very passionate. Where are we? Sorry about this, people. It's taking a while to find it. It's not a particularly nice card. I never particularly like this card when I see it, I must admit. Here we go. Oh, is it? Yeah. Mind Your Back, it's called. Mind Your Back. I was wrong about that bit, so I'm sure it talks about that somewhere. Let me have a look. It is strange, the imagery these cards bring to mind from various individuals. The immediate response from the guy who works in my local photocopy shop had an immediate reaction to this one as the mother-in-law, and further decreed this is what the card should be called. This card is one of birth, life and death, and also the bits we encounter in between. Very Plutonian energy. The wasp was chosen because it belongs to the Hymenoptera family of the insect world. The Hymenoptera. The hymen is shown in this card as the bridge, which also doubles as a snake-like pass. This hymen-like bridge also divides the phallic mushroom-type penis from the flaming crotch of desire, which also doubles as part of the body of the wasp. It may be noted here that it is only the females in the wasp kingdom that sting. Maybe the photocopy shop man was correct in his assumption about the mother-in-law. Vertebrae steps joined by an umbilical cord are part and parcel of the journey through birth, life and death. Much can be read into this card, so much is left out and open to interpretation of the reader. The eyes reflect the shadow demons that haunt us all in our quest through life. Storytime epics throughout the ages have shown that each superhero has his or her own shadow demon with equal strength and cunning. But as shown in the wasp's eyes, the evil is within the eye of the beholder. We only recognise the shadow demons in others that we actually have in ourselves. We should regard these shadow demon people in our lives as our teachers, for they teach us many things: patience, tolerance, and how to control our tongue and our temper. The fangy tooth of the wasp creatures represents not the sting but the sharp, piercing, harsh reality that only these sort of people can reveal to us. As said in an earlier card, enemies tell us to our face home truths that sting, and yet friends do it behind our backs. Interesting energy. So that's where I'm going to leave this particular reading. There is a lot more I could say about that card, what it represents to me on a personal level, but I will leave it up to you to see whatever it is that you want to see in it, how it resonates with you, what it connects with for you in your own life. And I'm going to say thank you very much for being here and for listening to my reading, for liking my readings. If you do like anything about my video here today, please could you like it for me, thumbs it up. Just kind of, as I was saying earlier, it really does help to kind of let YouTube know that people are taking notice of my channel, which is what I'm here to do, is to get my message out and to kind of let people know what is going on a bigger kind of scale at this time. Also, stellium, that was the word I was looking for earlier, and there's more than a certain amount of planets in a sign. It's called a stellium, so there is going to be this stellium of off track completely, of Pluto and the Moon and Vesta and Mars and Venus all coming together at the end of this month. So that's a big energy. Again, it's in my astrology reading if you're interested, just a quick plug there. And so, yeah, thank you. If you have subscribed, thank you very much for doing so. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please could you do so and join my channel. There will be that little bell or the subscribe button on the video, and you can tap it, and that's when the bell will appear, and you can decide whether you want to see my videos as and when I put them out there. I do all the full moon and the new moon videos mostly at the moment. I'm working through the 2022 readings as well. I think I'm up to Virgo being my next. No, Libra is my next. I've just done Virgo, so I'm on to Libra. And I will be going back to doing more of the actual sun signs on a regular basis as well when I get them out. I was hoping to get these 2022s done over the Christmas period, but unfortunately I wasn't very well, so that kind of put the dampener on that, and I've had to kind of try and catch up with myself since then. So I'm going to leave it there and say thank you again for being here and listening and being a part of my journey with me, and please take really good care of yourselves at this time and anybody else around you that you can, and hopefully see you again soon.